Hi everyone, welcome to today's little bit more work on this image. This is my Copic Harbour drawing and we're on to part 5 now. So this part probably will last about an hour depending on how far I get, so we'll see how it goes. As you can see, a lot of the tones have softened up from the last time, so it's all coming together and I roughly know where I want to go, but it's just now starting to refine parts of the detail and thinking a lot more about where I'm putting the colours. So far I think I'm now on to about 60 colours for the blends. So we're doing quite well. Some of the pens are starting to run out, bless them, others are hanging in there, so we'll see how far we can get. Right, now I'm hoping this is recording. I've got strange messages up on my computer, so we're just going to go for it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, it does. Right, now with the hot weather, my print has curled. So it's being a right pain in the rear end. And uncurl. Yeah. And I just have to ignore the lines. Cheap print paper, hot weather does not go. Right. So I am going to try and pick out a little bit of the detail at the back. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to just start to get this line put in here. Double dotted. Yeah, alive. Yep, hopefully we're live. Yeah, modern technology doesn't always catch up. So the detail right back here is absolutely minute. It doesn't have to be in focus at all. I can just use coloured dots, and then when I come through with the liner pens, that's when I'm going to pick out more of the detail. Get that a bit more centred so you guys can see it. So go up a little bit. So with the framing, as you can probably see, there's a slight offside here. That bit I will probably blend out. Actually, I can still bleach that bit out. And what I'll be doing is putting lines, frame lines, where I want the framing bit to be. Now I did have, where is it? Here we go. So for instance, when it comes to framing, this is the right way around. That is roughly the image that will be produced. So if you imagine, in fact it's easier to do it white, if you imagine that is pretty much how the crop's going to be, but it's going to be a soft crop once it's printed, and that will blend out into the paper because my printer's really good at that, but that's roughly how it's going to look. So as you can see already, I'm actually looking at how the cropping and the placement and everything has been, and that's partly why I've gone over what would be the edges, and that just gives me that tiny bit of flexibility. Even if it's just 5mm either side, I know that I've got a bit more manoeuvrability, and if something isn't lining up properly, I can shift it. Right, so on with the drawing. Right, where to start, ladies and gentlemen. Like I say, it's going to be pinpoints of colour. And as normal, I'm opening both ends of the pens, especially the more juicy ones, just to get that pressure balanced out a bit. Now I know this boat back here, and I know what colour it is. But which line am I using? Yeah, white, Now the sea level goes there, so there. With some of the absolute minute detail, it's probably going to be wrong, but I'm not too worried. Was that really that bad? I really should have organised my markers. They're literally just everywhere right now. Drowning in Copics, which in all honesty is not a bad thing. This is where that lovely little brush nib comes in so handy. I'm going to leave this part till last in the drawing. I'm not happy about the level of detail, so that bit is kind of going to vanish for a bit. Right, okay, so we've got building. I've finally got that pesky boat added. So I needed light grey and start mapping in a couple of bits along the harbour. So there are features all the way around the harbour, like different parts of the harbour wall, and also the areas where the boats hoist up or dock or whatever they do. This also gives me an opportunity just to add in extra bits of detail that I can now see better. So when I was originally doing this undercoat, I wasn't paying much attention to that detail, but now I've come back with, after a break from it, and I can straight away pinpoint where I need to add in that extra detail. Very dark bit tucked in there. Where's that reddish brownish one? Purplish. I need a slightly reddish colour, not too red. It's for brickwork. I think reds I always struggle with. I just don't know quite why, but me and red as a colour we don't get on. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep on trying. There's a blue house in between there, and there's a red house there. It's like Balamori. Who's in the pink house? And ivoryish creamish. Hopefully the volume's okay for you guys. I have no idea what it's like. Hey, free range Copic. Get back up there. I'm using a lot more colours for the shadows due to the reflections. Well, hopefully that's going to help a lot. Right, it's this roof that's going to be the fun bit. And stretch. working out these roofs. Kind of glad that with the Copics you can put Posco white markers over them, because it's kind of a lifesaver. It's easier to put colour down then put the marker over, then put the marker down, well the Posco down, and then try and put the marker around it and fill in the gaps. So that goes down there, that's the white building. Due to the fact it's about 30 here today, I'm trying not to rest my hand too much on the drawing because my hands are slightly damper. Hence the kitchen roll, keeping dry hands, stopping any oils and such getting onto the drawing, which is pretty essential because the oils in your hands can really do drawings damage. So I can swatting the drawing across the room. Now, I'm looking for a particular colour and I seem to have misplaced it. Idealistically, I should be putting these Copics back into their box and their little holes, but I find it a bit of a faff having to do that, so I just literally plonk them out on the table and go from there. Doesn't always work though. Not worried about blending these bits out yet. Later on I'll reanimate them and then go from there. So right now it's literally just getting a layer of colour down. And yeah, some of the colours look a bit strange, but these are colours that I'm actually seeing in the photo. But they'll be pushed back as the drawing progresses. Right, bear with me. Sorry about that, wood pigeons were getting a bit crazy with one of the feeders. So that's the beige house, pink house, purple house, and this one is a red house. The peachy brownish colour. And I can add the whites of the windows and things like that in later on. So that's filled in that gap. Not going too far down because I've still got micro detail to dot in here and there. Now fine liners, I'm thinking either of using those ones, whichever ones they are, with archival ink, or I'm also tempted on the Derwent version, but I might stick with the Old Faithfuls because I can get a 0.05 nib on those, whereas I can't with the other ones. My feet are sticking to the ground. It's too hot for socks. So here I'm literally just gonna block in colour. guys can go up there. Oh, and if you think the oval ones are the best pen because they don't roll, they do roll very well. So if that bit comes up there, I've got the white of the house. Roof, roof, roof. Everyone say hi, roof. That's my dotting. So now I need to add in a little bit of darker colours just to indicate there's a shadow in there. This E74 should do it quite nicely. And then I'll come back with a lighter colour and just blend that out a bit. So for now I'm just going to block in little blocks of colour. And these nibs on Copics will give you so much control, seriously. Absolutely amazing control you can get with these. I started off with Pro markers. I got really into them, thoroughly enjoyed them, and then got introduced to Copics. I still have my Pro markers from, gosh, is it over 8 years? It's got to be about 8 years ago now. And they still work absolutely fine. No props there. And I've been using Copics for a while. I've not really done any official courses, though I do recommend the official courses. But they are just, I'd never ever go back from a Copic. I tried Spectrum Noir, Illustrator pens, and their main ones, no. It was something to do with the nibs. Whenever you put the ink down, you ended up with, I don't know how to describe it, like a, the nib would just go completely white and drain of ink. So layering colour was extremely difficult with those, which was a shame because the company who's making them is a good company and it kind of doesn't do them credit. That's more dotting of colour. This drawing will take quite a while to do at the end of the day. I've put aside about 14 hours for it, which may seem a long time, but I am so not rushing this. I just want this to go right. But if it goes wrong, I'm not going to get frustrated and have a paddy and squeak and throw my toys out the pram. I'll just work around it, as I always find myself doing, and just keep on going. Sometimes with Copics, your first few layers will seem completely wrong and you won't like it, but if you keep on persevering, keep on layering up with them, you start to see results really nicely. In fact, I'm going to, let's see, just going to find a 0.005 pen. Light fast pigment ink, doesn't say it's archival. The only thing about these pens that drives me insane is that after a little bit of work with them, the barrels and the nibs all wear off. So you have no idea which pen is which. But after a while of using them, you'll know that is definitely a 0.05 nib. You get used to the weight and the feel of them. This one feels empty. I'm just going to check something Just want to do a quick test. Yeah, that's fine. So. And when it comes to inking lines and detail onto this drawing, a lot of them are going to be very broken up lines, so it's not going to be a solid line all the way through. And this is so that it doesn't distract from the main image. And the good thing is with these markers, I can put these down and then I can put the Copics across again, and it's not going to bleed or have any issues. I'm just going to put a couple of lines in, just want to see how it goes. Sometimes when an image you're kind of halfway through and you're not sure where it's going to go next, putting in a couple of the final lines in places does help. It just focuses you on where it's going and it helps you spot any issues. With these marker pens and these fine liners, you don't need any pressure really at all. You're literally just brushing against the paper and the ink flows beautiful. Now for the main ink detail with these pens will only be that block of boats, and from kind of this end downwards, everything in the background can stay blurred out. And that way I'm going to have my foreground, midground, background. And you've probably spotted that in this image I've not really used black at all, apart from in this liner pen. If I've wanted a blackish colour, I've made it out of blues, purples, browns and other colours. Because using raw black is a bit too harsh. And where I am using it, I'm being very controlled. Put a couple more of these broken lines in. That feels better straight away. I'm feeling a little bit more like, wait, this image is working. And that's how you want to feel with the image. You want to feel comfortable and a little bit confident, but never cocky. If you do a drawing and you get too cocky about it, you will lose respect. And it's quite important to be humble and have people's respect at the end of the day. You should never go around bragging that your work is better than somebody else's. It's insulting and it makes you look an absolute idiot. So these are just things that you just need to be aware of. If you see another artist struggling with something, or you notice they've made a mistake of some sort, which does happen, just politely say, oh, how do you think that went? And is there any way I can help? But don't troll and say, oh, that's rubbish, or nasty things like that. Be proactive and positive. That's enough of the fine lining before I end up getting into that. Just checking that straight edge. So crop it's going to be there, yep. I do like to keep an eye on my straight edges. Right, shadows. I've noticed a little bit of green splot over there. We're going to do a Bob Ross and we'll turn that into a bird. That's a post. Some of the bits along here will literally just be white dashes. I've just got to make sure that there's the flow follows around correctly. As you can see, the more white that vanishes, the more the image appears. With fine detail, it is sometimes very hard to spot where the line, one on the line ends and the other line begins. So I'm quite happy to take it slow and just waddle through. Oh, now one of those houses there is blue. It's this. It's that one. That means that bit. Let's go a little bit further. It's because there's a very large boat tucked up in there. I think I'll be mapping that one in with the white pen. And then in this chunk is where it gets a little bit confusing because of the line of boats down there. So that's a bit that I'm going to miss out for now. I'm just going to put a little bit of detail on this one. I'll just start to pick out a little bit of the shadow on this one. It's a slightly lighter marker, so that was N2. So I'm looking at probably a C00, which seems invisible, but it does give you a very gentle shade. There's a bit of blue band here, so I'm going to use a very light blue just to map that in. The blue itself, the colour it'll end up with should be quite a dark blue. This is that undercoat, which just means that I'm getting it in the right position. It's a bit of a confusing bit because it's not solid, it kind of goes up and round. And then there's a horrendous magenta colour underneath that. See, I don't really want to go that strong on magenta, so I'm going to use a purple instead. I'm not entirely sure whose boat that one's on, but I'm not sure if that's not my camera. As you can't, because the light was going that way, I was facing that way, so it can't be the camera, it's got to be something on that boat. But I'm sure I can sort that out. This pen is so juicy. This is a B99. Oh my goodness me, this is a juicy pen. Be very careful with this one. Yeah, it's already leaking out the nib. What I might have to do is do some small drawings using this pen just to take off a bit of the ink, and then come back to using that one. It's been a bit of a problem, this one, through the thing. I love juicy pens, I'm really chuffed, but sometimes when they're too juicy they become a problem, because if it's got a pressure build up and then pops and all the ink flows through, which is why I do that double click thing where I open up one end and then release and open at the other. If that happens on this, I will probably cry, because it's a very strong colour. So if it was a kind of grey or a green that was in the zeros, I wouldn't have a worry, because I can, you can go over those really light clear colours. But when it's a strong rich colour, oh no, that is not fair. So hence I'm being a little bit super cautious with that pen. And the normal promotion thing, if you like what you see, please remember I love it if you guys support me by just hitting the like button, following, that sort of thing. I do a range of things from collage, coursework, Copics, so a few things, loose sketchwork, tight sketchwork, realism, all sorts over here. So if you're into art and want to get inspired, just click a follow or click a like. You're always welcome. The more the merrier, as I say. So I'm coming back to the light colour, just so that I can map in little bits. I am glad that I didn't put that much detail into this drawing, and that I've gone for more freehand with the markers. Even though it has given me a little bit of chaos, it's made me much more aware of exactly what I'm doing, where I'm putting the marks. It's not just kind of colouring the numbers. I've got to think of exactly where I'm putting the pen and what effects that's going to have. Normally I do a very high detail pencil drawing, but I wanted to challenge myself, and it's good to train my eyes to actually look at the drawing instead of just assuming that that needs to be red, that needs to be blue. Because with such a bare, sketchy underdrawing, I've really got to concentrate on where I'm putting my marks. If I feel like I've gone wrong somewhere, yeah, I know I did the fronts of the boats pretty much right. Bear me 2 seconds, need to stand back and re-look at the drawing. I'm just going to quickly change something, bear with me. Okay, just checking my pens, make sure I've got the right ones. Right, next bit. Purple fluff. I have no idea where that's come from. But this isn't. I think everyone in the UK right now would just like purple rain. Fluff. C00 it's got ink on it, so I'm just got to see if I've got a leak on the table. No, no leaks, no onions. This bit is definitely in shadow. So if you can work out where to block in colour, it's quite handy, because a lot of it is simple blocks. Right, I can bring in a slightly brighter blue. This bit I'm really going to be careful how I build it up. There's so much stuff on boats, it's quite difficult at times to work out what goes where and what parts it's attached to whose boat. Right, I'm going to bring in that fine liner for a few minutes. So she's looking for it. I'll bring it in if I can find it. I use it. Yeah, found it. I'm just going to add in a little bit of the detail. I'm not 100% sure on something on here, so by adding in that tiny bit of detail, I'm hoping that will just straighten out what I think I'm seeing. Part of the problem is that there's an area of white on white, and I've literally just got a tiny bit of cast shadow telling me where these pieces are. Radar. Oh, that's where part of the problem is a radar. I've mapped out the radar slightly wrong, I've got it too flat. That's why it wasn't making much sense. Okay, so that is the bottom bit. That's why it's not making any sense. Sometimes I say you have to start to add in a little bit of detail and step back and actually reassess the drawing, and then you can spot little whoopsies. So in this case I've just made a slight boob with the radar, but that's just been fixed within seconds, which is always good. This is a bit below. I really think I'm going to have to get a magnifying glass for that bit. When I put the Copics over this pen, it should fade the pen back a little bit, so it'll soften the lines. There's like a block here, this is really annoying me. going to change pens, bear with me. So what I'm doing is I'm just literally standing back from the drawing and just trying to assess where I need to go next. So it's like loads of hundreds of little tiny blocks of colour that I'm looking at. And it's that stepping back, reassess, come back with fresh eyes that is really important. If you stare at a drawing too long, you are going to lose concentration and you're going to make mistakes. So regular small breaks. And even if you're on a tight deadline, don't forget to have breaks. Because if you're not well and you're stressed and your eyes are sore, it's going to reflect in the image. Part of me is threatening never to draw a boat again. So I'm just coming in with that really light grey and blocking out where I'm pretty 98% sure there's a chunk of blue. There's a curved bit there. Because the nice thing is with these really light greys, you can put colour over them. It just gives you that little bit of flexibility. So now I've got that purple bit in, I can see there's a kind of brownish colour just back here, which helps me frame the other bit. I feel sticky again. I wonder if that one starts to leak. I get the feeling some of my pens are leaking with the heat. Right, so I need that darkish navy blue. No, I don't want to use that one. I'll use that one. I was going to originally stream all of these from Facebook, but I'm just finding that Twitch is a much easier platform to use for streaming right now. Don't know why, I've just got really comfortable with it. I kind of trust Twitch a little bit more. Though I must do a couple of streams just with YouTube just to keep in with it. But all the streams that I'm doing here, even though they'll vanish in a certain amount of days, the recordings will go onto YouTube. So there's a link to my YouTube account somewhere on the screen, somewhere. And that'll take you to the main page, and then there's some subcategories you can find. And there's one called Copic drawing, something along that nature. Now I'm seeing a different colour. Looks like a tank. So I need aquamarine colour. Actually, more of a petrol blue colour. That's fine by me. That's the colour of mine, just spotted it. It's white, blue, and pink. And I need lavender. Yeah, idealistically, if you're using Copics, please make sure that you've got ventilation in your room. They're not, I don't believe, though, don't quote me on this, I've not seen anything on the Copic site saying that they are toxic to inhale, but they are an alcohol marker. Alcohol evaporates in heat, and you'll be breathing that in. So keep your room ventilated. Like with using any art products, it's better safe than sorry. Now, with the Spectrum Noir markers, first time I used them, I was actually quite ill. The smell was very marzipanish. And I like marzipan. And I could eat a block of it quite contently. Which explains why I'm slightly round right now. But with those markers, I was literally, within half an hour of using them, I felt sick. Absolutely ugh. They smelled so strongly, it was just not right. And at first I found a little bit of a smell with Copics, but nowhere near the power of the Spectrum Noir markers. In fact, I haven't really used the Spectrum Noirs that much due to that smell and it making me feel quite queasy. And it gave me quite a nice headache, to say the least. So if you have asthma or breathing difficulties, or even you're prone to migraines, just be aware of keeping ventilation up when using your art products. I think I've nearly mapped in this boat's shadows. There's a buoy on the side of this one, not a literal buoy. I'd be worried if there was. It creates a 3D illusion that it's a white panel going that way, and it's not. Where's that marker? To tell you what, I'm going to open my window a little bit more because it's 32 in here now. So. I tend not to have my window open too much because where I live there's a huge amount of noise. And earlier today we had a helicopter doing the rounds. It seems to be a regular thing. They do training in the area, but there's a noisy motorbiker. We do get them where if there's an incident in the area, they tend to use the region where I am as a area where they will circle until they know what they're doing. Which sometimes can be very, very, very irritating. But not as bad as where I used to live. In Berkshire, we had a tiger moth plane. And this bloke would do loop-the-loops every weekend, solid. And I think he only went back to the base, refuel and back out over both Saturdays and Sundays. And even during the week, he used to drive us to insanity. You couldn't sit out in the garden. It was just 24/7. And he actually got banned from flying in certain areas. It was quite a shocker because there was a memorial service. And I mean, that's quite a serious event. And it was at a local dignitary's house and place. So a lot of very, very important people gathered. And when the service was in full swing, this bloke was doing loop-the-loops right above the estate. And he got banned from that airspace. It was so disrespectful. And I swear he did it during a 1 minute silence as well. But whenever we phoned up all of the areas where he could have come from, nobody would tell us if the plane was held there or not. And in the end we had a good idea of where the plane was, but the staff at the airport refused blatantly to say if this particular plane was coming from there. So in the end we ended up actually phoning up the aviation kind of society people. I can't remember which part of it was. And we put a massive complaint in. And for about a week he didn't fly. And then lo and behold he was back. So we were glad to kind of move out of that area. It's just so noisy. So we're in a quieter area, apart from when the kids come out of schools. At least we haven't got the constant aircraft. You just get the odd military going over, the odd air sea rescue going by, which fully respect them. And I mean the odd bombers, typhoons, that sort of thing. So you kind of write yourself, kind of, oh, guess what's flying over today? And on the odd occasion, the red arrows. That's quite fun. Actually, considering how close we are to the coast, I'm really surprised we don't get that much seagull noise. Oh, sorry, gull noise. There is no such thing as a seagull. It's either a herring gull, a common gull, blackback gull, lesser blackback gull, or another type of gull, which are not gullable. So yeah, we don't get too much noise from the gulls, which is nice. Somebody's opening the doors now upstairs. Probably getting a bit hot in the living room, bless them. It is very hard to draw when it's this hot. But perseverance does pay off, even though it takes a little bit longer. Oh, you never realise how much you sweat from your hands until you've tried drawing in hot weather. Just add in this post. A little bit confusing on this one. Right, it's literally a tiny space. And then the next one goes from there. Some random marks in that bit. Slightly lighter grey. Another dark grey. Use a slightly darker grey. This is N8. It's quite close to a blackish colour, but not close enough. It's too sharp. It's like a very muted colour. And once you blend it out with other grades, it becomes quite a nice soft natural colour. One Copic on the floor. Bounced off my foot. I need to make sure I add a little bit of blue onto these because there is a little tiny bit of blue in there. And I can use the blue because it's lighter than the grey, so I can use it as a blender. Just need to add a little bit more to that one. Just grab that one and put it on the floor. Ouch. And neutral greys. As you can using the W3 to add in a little bit of tonal effects. Just to make the posts stand out a little bit more. And then hopefully I can come through with that 0.05 nib and just add in a tiny bit of detail. And then back with the W3 just to soften that out a little bit. I don't want the marks to be kind of too stark or the post to look too white. And I can add in a tiny pinch of lilac-y colour because I can actually see that just a tiny bit. It could be that my printer's more into the magentas. If it is, that's cool because it just adds some variation to the colours. So that's now looking like. So it's now looking like that. I can see where I'm putting my lines, these posts are standing out a little bit more, a bit of the boat details pushed forward now. So feeling happier with that. I'm feeling cool with this part of the sea, no problem there. I need to do quite a lot of work on this bit and then I need to get these boats somehow mapped in. But I think as long as I get this first one right, the rest should fall in line quite nicely. So I'm going to come this side and just tidy up this boat because this is annoying me now. See if I can actually put in the lines that need to be there. with this bit it went slightly squiffy, and I do need to re-ink quite a bit of that. Let's see if we can get that colour a bit better. It's not bright blue, but it's not a light blue. But the side is a much more aquamarine colour, so I just need to be aware of that. Can't really go for a pure cyan, but I should be able to blend it into more of a mellow tone. Put those blues into the shadows. There's me wondering what this is here. It's a British flag or English flag. That's going to be fun to add in. Means I've messed up a little bit at the sea there. Now, where did I put my Posca? This bit here, I just want to Posca in. Just so that I know I've got that little bit white. I'll come through with the fine liner later and just put in a couple of the more detail-y bits. Now, this isn't a light blue, it's kind of a purpley blue, so purpley blue. Now that I've done that, I can see that I've just got a slight error on the end of that boat. Which actually could be quite a big error. Because the problem that I've got here is the two masts are actually twisting. Yeah, I'm going to have to do quite a patch up on this boat isn't long enough. That's why it hasn't seemed right. So there you go, step back, look back, re-jig a bit and kaboom! Notice there's a whopping great big error. But it's fixable. At this stage it's always fixable. I'm literally spotting in a couple of bits of red into that flag. I don't want that to be too strong. And there's a ledge here. That's why it's not made sense. Now we see it. I keep on forgetting some of these boats have got little ledges on the back for little steps. It's tiny details like that that make all the difference. Then just soften that out. and that feels a lot more comfortable. Now this boat, bear with me. Right, this boat comes right out, and oh blimey, what I thought was that boat's is that boat. Oh my goodness me, that's quite a mess up. Right, how to fix this next mess. Let's see, I've got to pull the boat forward another 5 mils at least, and then put in a massive railing, which I for some reason thought was this part of the boat. Right, this is doable. It's doable if you think sensibly and take your time. So I need an undercoat, but it's got to be dark enough that I can see it. This is where having the base coats is really handy, because I've not gone too dark straight away. So this is kind of a blessing. Right, so this boat actually comes out to here. And this piece here is quite literally a tiny triangle. And then, right, a little bit more colour. Next blue, next blue. I don't want to bring any heavy greys in at this point. Right, here we go. It's got to be a little bit straighter. So where that fine nib, really, that lovely controllable nib comes into its own. Pull that across again. Right. Yes, I'm happy with that. That feels better. You will know when you're happy with drawing when it literally does feel better. And the bit that doesn't feel right is that mast. I think my line is slightly out, and that's probably what's caused it. It's this part, which is this part. I've literally just got out somehow. Right. We can work this out. It's not rocket science. Because we've got a rope that comes from this point. Bear with me, I need to stare at this drawing for a few seconds. Yeah, that does join onto there, so how am I going to get that to join onto there? I've got to expand it a tiny, literally millisecond. Then that's better. Right, let me check my line. If I go for the inner line, it's doable. Yeah, I've got to go for the inner line of that one. So a large piece of this line here is actually going to vanish, and I'll be pulling it that way, not that way. Right, feeling better with that. And there's a rail that sticks out here. So we can just quickly mark in a couple of those bits. Right, so I'm going to call it quits for tonight because I've been working on for an hour and I've got an early shift tomorrow morning, so I need to be up nice and fresh for tomorrow. So I'm feeling a bit more happy about it. I've started to put in a little bit of the high detail. I've fixed where I had a gaping great big mess. I mean, there's a little bit more tonal depth, and that's certainly the underpainting, so a lot more work to go onto that bit. I've got my houses dotted in, so then by the time I overlay the boats, that should almost vanish that area. That's why I've not bothered with the detail. And then I can come through and just add the pen detail in here and there. So yeah, probably about another 4 hours worth of work minimum. Actually, it's going to be even more than that because I've still got all of the micro detail to go in. But this gives you an idea of how a drawing can be built, where mistakes get made, how I'm rectifying them and looking for ways around them. But I hope this has inspired you guys out there to go and find a pen, a Copic, anything, even a pencil and a bit of paper, and get out there and get enjoying drawing and creating. So till next time, take care everybody, all the best and happy drawing to you all.